We have all probably heard of the Panama Canal, the narrow waterway that carries more than $270 billion worth of U.S. goods each year. But few people realize that the fatal weakness of this vital route lies not in steel or engines, but in something far more fragile: freshwater. Just a few late rainy seasons can immediately restrict the entire canal's operating capacity. Meanwhile, Mexico, Nicaragua, and even countries across South America are quietly looking for ways to capture part of the cargo flow that Panama could lose. Who could replace Panama, and can the canal fight back? To understand how such a small vulnerability could shake global trade, we first need to understand why this canal matters so much. The Panama Canal is virtually the only shortcut that allows ships to travel directly between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans without sailing all the way around the southern tip of South America. That is why it has become a vital artery for the flow of goods between Asia, Europe, and the east coast of the United States. As you may already know, even though it connects two oceans, the canal does not run at sea level. When a ship enters the canal, it must be raised more than 80 feet, cross Gatun Lake in the middle of the isthmus, and then be lowered on the other side. That raising and lowering is performed by locks that operate just like giant elevators built specifically for ships. And for those elevators to work, they need an enormous volume of fresh water drawn from reservoirs that are replenished mainly by tropical rainfall. When water levels in these reservoirs fall, ships are forced to carry lighter loads, and the number of vessels allowed through the canal each day may also be reduced. During the 2023 drought, long lines of ships formed at both ends of the canal, and some vessels had to wait several days before they could pass through. The prolonged waits sharply increased costs on some shipping routes, forcing carriers either to pay more or accept a much longer detour. That vulnerability opened up a quiet race across the Americas, and the contender furthest ahead in that race is not a canal, but a railway. At the narrowest part of Mexico's isthmus, where just over 200 kilometers separate the Pacific Ocean from the Gulf of Mexico, the Mexican government has bet on an old idea that has been completely reinvented. Instead of digging a canal, it is building the interoceanic corridor of the Isthmus of Tehuantepec, a system of seaports and railways commonly known as the Sea-It. The idea sounds simple: a ship arriving from Asia docks at Salina Cruz on the Pacific side. The cargo is unloaded, not onto another ship, but onto trains. The train crosses the isthmus through the states of Oaxaca and Veracruz before reaching the port of Coatzacoalcos on the Atlantic side. There, the cargo is loaded onto another ship to continue its journey to Europe or the east coast of the United States. There are no locks, no lakes, and nothing depends on rainfall. It is a land bridge where the speed of the train replaces the water flowing through a canal. The main railway, known as Line Z, is about 308 kilometers long, has been operating since late 2023, and is no longer just a drawing on paper. Mexico once tested the route by transporting nearly 900 cars, and the entire journey across the isthmus took only about 9 hours. For time-sensitive goods such as cars or electronic components, that is a figure shipping companies cannot ignore. But a rail corridor needs more than tracks. It needs sufficiently large ports at both ends, additional branch lines connecting industrial centers, and enough security to ensure that cargo does not disappear along the way. The Mexican government has set a goal of bringing the entire system, including its branch lines and expanded ports, into full operation this year, although some components are still being completed. The greatest obstacle facing this model lies in its very nature. Every time cargo is unloaded and reloaded onto another vessel, it costs time and money, something an uninterrupted canal like Panama never has to contend with. In return, however, this route does not fear drought or the disappearance of clouds precisely when rain is needed most. In a world where the climate is becoming increasingly unpredictable, that stability is itself a competitive advantage. Of course, not every dream of replacing Panama follows such a practical path. There is another dream, far larger in scale, and it did not choose a railway. It chose to dig an entirely new canal. The story begins in Nicaragua, a country that competed with Panama from the very beginning, when the United States was searching for a place to build a canal across the Americas. More than a century later, that dream returned under the name Nicaragua Grand Canal, along with an enormous proposed investment. HKN Group, a privately owned company based in Hong Kong, secured the rights to build a super canal more than 270 kilometers long, cutting across Nicaragua and connecting the Pacific Ocean with the Caribbean Sea. The announced investment reached approximately $50 billion, a sum large enough to command the attention of the entire shipping industry. A symbolic, groundbreaking ceremony was held, complete with flags and promises of tens of thousands of jobs. But behind that spectacle was a completely different story. The proposed route would cross the largest freshwater lake in Central America and pass through land belonging to thousands of farmers and indigenous communities. Residents took to the streets in protest, fearing the loss of their homes, their farmland, and an entire ecosystem to which they had been connected for generations. Regional human rights organizations later concluded that the project had failed to conduct adequate consultations with the affected indigenous communities. Meanwhile, the promised investment never actually reached the construction site on anything close to the announced scale. Beyond clearing access roads and conducting a few initial surveys, excavation of the main canal never truly began. Years passed in silence until Nicaragua's National Assembly formally revoked the project's concession in 2024, ending a decade of waiting that left almost no trace on the ground. This was the biggest reversal in the entire race. The project, conceived on the largest scale and with the greatest ambition, became the clearest warning to anyone seeking to challenge Panama. Building a canal requires more than money. It requires political stability lasting for decades, community consent, and capital that is genuinely prepared to stay the course rather than stop at figures on paper. If Nicaragua is a lesson in what not to do, another chapter of the race is opening in a completely different direction in the south of the continent. On Peru's Pacific coast, a massive deep-water port built with Chinese investment and technology has officially begun operations. The port of Chancay was designed to accommodate some of the world's largest container ships, oversized vessels that cannot call at many other ports along South America's Pacific coast. The ambition behind this port extends far beyond Peru. It is aimed at Brazil, one of the world's leading exporters of soybeans, beef, and iron ore, but a country that lies on the other side of the continent, facing the Atlantic Ocean. The idea is to build a transcontinental railway connecting Brazil's interior directly to the port of Chancay, allowing Brazilian goods to reach the Pacific without having to travel through the Panama Canal. It sounds simple on a map, but on the ground it presents one of the harshest geographical challenges on the planet. The proposed route would have to cross thousands of kilometers of Amazon rainforest, where infrastructure is virtually non-existent. It would then have to climb and cross the Andes, one of the highest and most treacherous mountain ranges in the world. Many sources have estimated the cost of the entire route at tens of billions of dollars, a figure that reflects the true scale of the terrain it would have to conquer. At present, this remains a project in the feasibility study stage, and no complete transcontinental railway has been built. Brazil and its partners have signed agreements to conduct technical, environmental, and economic studies, but the governments involved have repeatedly stressed that no official investment decision has yet been made. In other words, the port is real, but the rail link connecting it to Brazil's vast interior remains under study. If this project becomes a reality in the future, it could reshape the entire trade map of South America. While that plan remains under study, several other countries also want to enter the race to find an alternative to Panama. In Colombia, proposals for an interoceanic railway have also been raised repeatedly, although most remain at the discussion stage. In Honduras, there have been proposals for a dry corridor combining seaports and roads, similar in spirit to Tehuantepec but smaller in scale. Several other places have also quietly discussed combined port and rail models as a way to take advantage of their geographic position. Most of these ideas still exist only on planning maps, with little substantive construction activity. But the simple fact that so many countries simultaneously want a place in this flow of global trade says a great deal. It shows that Panama's position is no longer regarded as self-evident and untouchable as it was for many decades. But while the world is busy drawing new routes to replace it, Panama is not standing still and waiting. This century-old canal is rearming itself, and this time, its weapon is water. In 2016, Panama completed the canal expansion project, bringing the third set of locks into operation and allowing much larger ships to pass through than before. What fewer people noticed was that this new set of locks was designed with water-saving basins. During each operation, these basins retain a large share of the water that would otherwise flow directly into the sea, allowing it to be reused for the next vessel transit. As a result, Panama's modern lock system uses significantly less fresh water than the original locks built more than a century ago. This is not an idea for the future, but infrastructure that is already operating every day. In addition, the Canal Authority employs several other real-time water-saving measures. One of them is allowing two small ships to share a single lockage rather than sending them through separately. It also temporarily suspends power generation at Gatun Dam during dry periods to prioritize water for canal operations and drinking water supplies. At the same time, it closely monitors water levels in Gatun Lake and Alhajuela Lake, two reservoirs that serve as the heart and lungs of the entire system. Alongside those short-term measures, Panama is pursuing a much more fundamental solution, the Rio Indio Reservoir project. The Canal Authority has approved funding for the project, but it remains in the environmental study and preparation phase and has not officially broken ground. The plan is to build a dam on the Indio River, create a new reservoir, and then channel water from it to Gatun Lake through a tunnel several kilometers long, allowing the water to flow by gravity without an expensive pumping station. If built as planned, the new reservoir is expected to strengthen the canal's water supply for decades to come. But the project is also controversial because it would require the relocation of several long-established farming communities in the area, whose residents are voicing strong opposition. It is important to be clear that the water-saving lock system is already operating, while the Rio Indio Reservoir project remains in the planning stage and is not a completed structure. But even as every water solution remains a work in progress, Panama still holds an advantage that no rival can replicate overnight. A ship passing through Panama does not need to stop, unload its cargo, or transfer it to another vessel. It travels directly from one ocean to the other in the same uninterrupted voyage. That is something a rail corridor like Tehuantepec cannot do. And even if a transcontinental railway in South America is someday completed, it would still require cargo to be unloaded and reloaded multiple times. So, after everything that has happened, what is the true picture of this race worth hundreds of billions of dollars? There is no evidence that any single project is capable of completely erasing the Panama Canal's role in global trade. What is actually happening is that every new route, whether a railway across Mexico or a seaport in Peru, is capturing a small share of the cargo flow, adding competitive pressure, and becoming a backup option for companies that do not want to place their entire supply chain at a single choke point. Panama still possesses a geographic and engineering advantage that is extremely difficult to replicate, but that advantage is no longer guaranteed forever. The biggest question, therefore, is not simply which project could replace Panama. The real question is this: can Panama continue to defend its position in a world where water, seemingly the simplest resource of all, is becoming more unpredictable than ever? So, in your opinion, Which of all the projects we have discussed is most likely to challenge Panama over the next 10 years? Leave your answer in the comments below, and do not forget to subscribe to the channel so you do not miss any upcoming videos.